Welcome to The Power and the Pain, where your past isn't your prison.
It's the fuel for your purpose.
I'm Greg Pihs, combat veteran, NLP trainer, and your guide to turn trauma into triumph. This is The Power and the Pain. Let's go. Welcome back to The Power and the Pain. Last week, I left you guys with an open loop. I told you I'd be bringing on a special guest, and I told them that I was bringing a hypnotist, so woo.
I didn't bring my pocket watch. Shoot.
I didn't bring my pocket
Oh, I forgot it. Can we stop?
This week's guest is Chelsey Albert, and I actually got to, really cool, I got to see Chelsey Albert on stage last night at Jim Morris's 7 Minutes at Impact event. I connected with Chelsey, I'm not sure, just maybe a month or so ago. And the first time we met, what I thought was going to be like a 30-minute coffee was like a 3.5 hour.
Something like that, yeah.
And what I was most connected to when I met with Chelsey, like at first I thought, I was like, oh, it seems like a genuine person. But the truth is, I don't know you enough to know that if you're actually, I don't know you enough to know if you're actually genuine. And I thought I was like, what was the connection there? Said by me, it was powerful witnessing how self-aware you are.
All right. I'm glad that's it. That's high praise.
And you know, because first I thought it was like, oh, she's real, she's raw, she's genuine. And I was like, you know, I don't know. I think so.
I hope so. I don't. I learned very early on that I'm a terrible liar, and I was just never given the opportunity to get good at lying. And so it's just a waste of time. I can't keep my story straight if I start. Okay, I take that back. Lying, I never got good at. I'm not, I'm not perfect, but codependency, on the other hand, I actually really was good at. I was really good at shoving myself into whatever box I thought people needed me or wanted me to be in. So in that sense, I didn't used to be this way. There just came a point, which we can talk about later, but there just came a point where I was like, you know what, it's too much effort and I'm done. So you met me in one of my most authentic phases, and even now I'm still kind of breaking myself down, building myself, breaking me down, discovering myself, breaking myself down. It's a constant process, I think, being authentic. Yeah. But I am so much more comfortable with it now than I was, back in high school, back in college, back even in my 20s.
Let's go. And you said we can get in that a little bit. Actually, so today, and Chelsey will talk about it in her own words. These are in my words. Today, Chelsey's a hypnotist. She empowers entrepreneurs and people that are high-level producers. She empowers them, it's said by me, to break the rules so they can create success in their own lane. Because if we create success in someone else's lane, I mean, we can create it however we'd like, but it's going to feel so much, said by me, so much more powerful when we do in our own lane. And it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
You started to take us back, tell me about what was the experiences you had that created those barriers? I'm curious from there, what was your aha moment? And maybe it wasn't a moment, but maybe it was a season. Like, what was the thing that we were just going one way and we didn't know any different, and then all of a sudden it was like, wait, and we start to switch that brought us into today?
Yeah,
okay.
It's been a whole journey, as you know, but when I was little, a lot of people ascribe their trauma to, and unfortunately this is true, trauma happens and the things that shape us happen in our very early childhood, but it's not always our family. I actually was super blessed. I had a great family, very supportive. We had our own little cocktail of mental stuff, but everyone does. But I was friends with the school bully. We were neighbors, and we just got kind of put into that little de facto best friends category. Mm-hmm. And she would switch as quickly as from recess to lunch. I would go from being one of the cool kids to being the pariah with cooties. Mm. And so I had to learn very early on to adapt. I had to also learn how to recognize when she was starting to crackle. And that's when I started either I had to go into defense mode. Okay, what do I do? How do I play this? Do I fawn? Do I like flatter her? Do I freeze? Do I just separate myself and eat lunch somewhere else and disappear? So I learned very early on how to detect what people were wanting from me for my own self-defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which I will say has served me in a lot of ways. And it's something, exactly. And people who are empathic, people who are sensitive to energy, it really is just like a skill, like, having like a good chef having extra taste buds, or, artists having extra sensitive rods and cones that detects different nuance and color. Empaths just don't have an art school that we can go to sharpen our skills. We have trauma, we have bullying, we have the jungle of growing up. That's our training ground.
Yeah.
So I took that in the way that I think most people do, and I decided, okay, it's not safe to be me. Who I am is a geek. I was always the kid with her first hand up. I loved making connections in my brain, and I think that carried through to what I do now.
Yeah.
I love those little connections, but when you're a kid, I was a smart girl. It didn't bode well for a elementary school career. And so as I grew up, I just kind of kept staying in that pattern, and I actually found people to overshadow me because I was just drawn to those bigger personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And that all kind of really came to a head when I married a narcissist. I was a 6-year relationship and 18-month marriage. But I think that was really the point where I wouldn't recommend it. Don't get me wrong. I would not recommend this type of journey. But it was the pressure cooker that made me who I am. It was the thing. I was always that kid that I would touch the oven and say, oh, that was hot. Let me touch it over here and see. Okay, nope, that was hot. And I had to basically just slap my hand right on the stove and hold it there. And that's when I realized, okay, whatever it is, I am not shoving myself into a box for anyone again.
Let's go.
And then, after a while of healing, it became much more natural and it became less defensive. It became, because I think after you go through something like that, you kind of, I think I actually thought of this phrase when I was with you. It's a promise. It's a promise you make to yourself out of trauma. And that kind of leads to like this almost aggressive, I'm going to be myselfness.
Oh yeah.
Not that I apologize for that either, but I definitely, after the years following, I did a lot of healing. I did a lot more development on myself. I created my entire new career. I learned hypnosis. I learned how to be a business owner. All of this, I've just gotten more settled with it to the point where it's like, yeah, this is me. I'm a goober. I'm a goof, and love me or hate me, I'm coming from a place of love, and you can take it or leave it.
How I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, and I want to talk a little bit about, so the list here, how powerful that feels, like knowing that once upon a, like I was actually doing a Facebook Live about this earlier today. Once upon a time, I was afraid, and I had to read. And by the way, beautiful gift from trauma, in my opinion. I'm very thankful for mine. Like, I am very, very insanely confident in my ability to read people, and I trust myself. I don't need to wait for evidence of if I was right or wrong.
Right.
Beautiful gift. We learned it when we were young, because it was like, what's gonna happen? Let me check everyone.
Yeah.
And then so we get to this like this like frozen place. Then there's this place, this chapter, and again I relate it. Then there's this chapter where it's like, fuck that, no one's gonna fucking tell me. And then if we're lucky, because some of us get stuck there, it's intoxicating.
Intoxicating's the right word. There's this freedom and this liberation in being able to say, F you world, I am, this is me, love it or hate it. But also that kind of lets the shadow play a little bit, and it gives you this sort of shell to say, this is who I am. I'm not changed. Oh,
let's go.
Yes, you know exactly. It's that attitude. And hey, if that's who you resonate with, great. But it does, at a certain point, if you get intoxicated by it, it keeps you from growing and saying, okay, now how can I soften back into this?
Bingo. And the power, I want to talk about like the power of those that those that have had this experience, you guys already know what we're talking about. For those that haven't had this experience yet, you can live it vicariously through what we're sharing. The power, it's like we said, that was intoxicating. This is euphoric. When we balance that like raw with like, we go into this calm place. Now, I will say for myself and then share, when I went to my calm place, it was like, at first, it was like, I'll never do warrior again. That was so bad.
Oh, I don't think I went that far. But I actually kind of went into warrior going, I'll never be the peacekeeper again.
Okay.
And so that was because I think I was a little bit more to your archetypes, and after you, which by the way, again, this is why the 3-hour conversation was so amazing. I love your process, but I think I was a little bit more ghosty in my peacekeeper, and I carried a lot of ghost into it. So I blamed the peacekeeper and said, I'm not going to do any of that again. I did go a lot more spiritual woo-woo. I fully went like, I'm kind of drawing myself back into the grounding now.
Let's go.
But what's really, really interesting is when you said like there's a swing, and as far as you swing, you're gonna swing the other way. So I've learned to mellow out my swings to where I can be like, okay, I'm a little bit more my warrior. Well, okay, let's swing over here, visit this for a little bit, bring this into it, and I'm starting to mellow out swing.
That is the euphoric part.
Yes.
That is the euphoric, like knowing that I have access to all of the powers and the shadow of the warrior. And there's no concern or anxiety because that identity, that archetype, that personality, that behavior only comes out if I have chosen for it to come out because I've created this.
Yeah. And
balance.
there's this power to it. You know, it's the people who have the real power. And I used to be a much angrier Chelsey. I worked in a call center. I used to like to hit things. I had an uncle that taught me how to box. I had, and I did a little bit of martial arts, and I did some kickboxing and sparring and a little bit of Muay Thai. Never anything serious, but I did like to hit things. And what I learned is that the most powerful people, and I think martial arts is such a great metaphor for life, because a true martial artist is so powerful in that they don't use their skills. They don't go around flaunting what they can do. They're very, very, very peaceful, but they know that at any time they can turn it on if they need to. And I think that's such a great metaphor and a great way of being in life. I'd love to keep adopting more of that as I go along, is that you don't... I think when we're still in that place, and like I said, please live vicariously. You said that perfectly. Please live vicariously through my story, through Greg's story, through everyone's story. But sometimes you do have to learn it. I had to learn it the hard way. I don't think I would have internalized it. I don't think I would have embodied it as much if I had heard stories. But the way you said it was, oh, you know what? The hamster just stopped running on the wheel. Let's go back to you for a second. I lost my train of thought.
And think about like when people telling people to live vicariously, like they kind of have to have their experience. Like you are going to have your experience, right? But to say have to, and the word hard, it is. Let me be real. Some of us, a lot of you, have done your hard, and you're just repeating it because you're not aware of the loop. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh my gosh, no! I'm just in full support of that. It's. Absolutely, there's value in the hard. There's value in the growth. Like, if we're not going through hard things, we're not going to grow. Muscles, brains, emotions, we're not going to grow. But you don't have to keep repeating the hard once you've gotten the lesson from it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then now hard. Like I'm congruent with that word, and I want to create the awareness for everyone. This is like you have to take a moment and choose to digest it or to let it fly by. But no meaning for anything exists outside of what we apply to it from inside. And the example like that I share, so like, for example, if something is hard, we have to give it that meaning. Now, I'm congruent with the word hard. I've done hard stuff. I'll have hard stuff to do in the future. But the meaning of that, like when we are going through it, we don't have the hindsight yet, okay, when we're going through. So it is hard when we're going through it. Once we are done with it, we can choose to look back at it and assign it a meaning in which it provides us value.
Yeah.
This is where everything changes. Like in the example I give, like my childhood, like once upon a time as an adult, and I say once upon a time, a vast majority of my life and into my adult life, like you would have went blue in the face trying to convince me of what was possible. And when you got tired of trying to convince me and you walked away, I would have then told Trent, our producer, how much you didn't understand what I had been through.
Been there.
And now though, like now my childhood is the platform that I stand on top of, but it's the same childhood that weighed me down, but the childhood didn't change, just the meaning of it.
Yeah, okay. I might go on a Chelsey rant here for a minute.
Please.
There's this cultural thingy going on right now where I think it's been a very good swing in a lot of ways. Back to the extremity of the swing, there was a time when you just rubbed some dirt on it. You didn't talk about anything that was going on, and if you had to talk to a professional, you were batty.
Something's wrong.
Exactly. Now I feel like we're kind of dipping a little too far over to the other side, though, where there's this demand that somebody acknowledges our victimhood and that somebody accommodates our victimhood. Yes, absolutely. This is going to sound... Am I allowed to curse on this?
No, yeah.
Okay, this is going to sound ossholic, but it's... There was actually, Carolyn Miss told a great story of, I don't remember which Native American tribe it was, but she did tell a story about a tribe where there's a tradition. You get to tell your story to 3 people. You get to have 3 people bear witness to your suffering. After 3 people, done. After 3 people, because there is such a crucial part where you do need to be heard. You need to be able to speak. You need to be able to understand and externalize your story. But it's not as long as everybody thinks. One of the troubles with traditional therapy right now, in the way that there are some therapists being brought into the profession, is they're being taught to sit there and accommodate and to acknowledge and to validate. And when you validate somebody's suffering, when you validate somebody's victimhood, after a certain point, it's no good. After a certain point, you're just grounding them in, and you're really keeping them addicted to therapy. Yeah, and it breaks my heart to see, because again, I've gotten good enough now to where it's intuitive, and I will actively tell my clients, okay, I'm going to lovingly cut you off. And I'll tell them that right in the beginning so that I can just cut them off when they start, because as you know, the brain starts getting lit up, all those neural pathways start activating, and they start regressing back into that state. And if that isn't interrupted, and if that pattern is just gone on through the entire session, you've done nothing. You've just had a catharsis. You've just had a really good girlfriend complaining session, which some of us, we all need. Or dude friend. Yeah, dudes seem to handle it differently. And I am learning very deeply to accept that. I know that if the men in my life go to the garage, or if they go out, okay, just let them. Don't try to talk about it. Don't try to talk to them. That's not their way.
Oh, man.
But believe me, as women, it's very, very hard for us to understand this.
Have you seen, man, I forget one of the ice ages, but the saber-tooth is having a rough time, and the mammoth is you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yes, and they just kind of like sit there, and they just kind of like, does he like
bumps him on the shoulder?
Yes.
And she was like, the wife, the lady mammoth says something to her, and he nods her on the shoulder, and she was like, what is that? And he was like, that's how guys take care of the problems.
And you know what? It works. If it works, if it works. I think that's also the thing that I'm learning, is everybody does have a different process. So as much as I'm saying, okay, you know what, from a scientific standpoint, it's really not great to continue to stay in that cycle. I've also had to learn that some people are at peace in their own suffering.
Yeah.
And some people, that is their process, and that is actually, if you were to try to bring them out of it too soon,
be detrimental.
Exactly. It would completely rock their entire world, and not in a good way. So it's just, I'm in a point where I'm looking back and realizing all I've learned. And this is a really interesting time to be on this podcast, because before we started recording, I was telling you, I'm in a massive breaking down phase of who I am. And I think we don't allow ourselves that space. So this is going to be a really interesting conversation because I have no idea where it's going to go.
I love it. And that's so powerful, like allowing ourselves to, like we are, this is just Greg talking here. I don't have any evidence of this. I think like what I kind of tie it to, not like this literal sentence, but sentences like, when we are children, at least in Westernized civilization, everyone asks, and we think it's like a cute thing to do, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's not just that question. And by the way, this is Greg's opinion, so I don't have no facts back in this. But the idea is that like we have to say something. And if you don't know, like we make them feel uncomfortable. We feed them things. What do you want to do, this or this?
Yeah, would you like to be a ballerina?
You can do anything you want, but what is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like in theory, I don't know if that's what, but I do know as like we are so like I remember I tell people all the time, like I told someone a plan for how I was going to make $1 million in 24 hours one time. And well, I say a plan. I told them as much as I knew, and as much as I had saw up to that time. And then they said, "Well, how are you going to do this?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know." And well, you have to yeah. How are you going to do it then? I don't know. Let other people be uncomfortable with you not knowing.
Yes. And I think there was a point in my life where my bubble would get really easily popped by that question. Well, how are you gonna? There's a part of it where my self-esteem just wasn't built up, and I would be like, yes, I'm going to do this. Okay, well, all it took, Greg, was, okay, so what school are you going to go to? Oh, I don't know. And the bubble would burst and I would lose all interest. There's a lot of things that I probably got derailed from. Now, looking back, of course, everything was meant to be derailed, but there's a lot of things I got derailed from just by somebody asking me a follow-up question. And I think you're right to let other people be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you this from the other side, I also deeply understand how it feels to be uncomfortable. I think some of the most anxious, one of the things that people can say that can bring out every ounce of my anxiety is, it'll all out. It'll all work out. Yeah, you know why? Because there's somebody like me worrying about how it's going to work out. That's how it's all going to work out. You're just going to let me worry for you. Great.
That's funny.
And I'm easing. That's been one of the things that I've just been easing and communicating. But you're so right. We have so you had mentioned me helping people break the rules, which is, oh my God, genius. And I'm going to take that for myself. Thank you.
Good.
I am going to fully receive that, because that's really one of the things I've learned is there are no rules. Yes. Okay. There are ethics. Yes. There are morals. Please do things. And there are spiritual laws.
Yeah.
The law, the most common one is the law of attraction. But if you break the law, it's not a punishment. If you don't use the law in the best way, all it's going to mean is you attract, the stuff that you don't want. But the law is always working.
Right.
There's the law, but after that, there are no rules. And there are so many people that I work with, and there are so many people that I have talked to and I've helped, and some that I would really, really love to help, that just think that I have to do this because this is how it's done. And I had to go through that pressure cooker to be so in my warrior and so anti the rules that I don't know if I would have realized it for myself until I got into it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so powerful what you talk about with the archetypes and all of the research you've done with the archetypes, because it really, I'm looking back and I think one of the things that makes this so interesting is, yeah, you can stay in one archetype for the rest of your life. Had I stayed where I was at, I could have had a perfectly mediocre life. I would have been slowly miserable and slowly dying on the inside, but I could have stayed. It wasn't a situation where it was dangerous, thankfully. But I look at this evolution, and it's now opened all new doors. We've been floating around in each other's orbit for maybe a couple of years. We've been friends on Facebook, and we just ran into each other. I feel like that was also divinely timed.
100%.
I wasn't ready to meet you. You weren't ready to meet me.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden, at a score meeting, we're just like, hey.
yeah.
And I felt the very same click with you. I just felt instinctively like it. And hypnotists, we're weird. We are very weird. We have a reputation of kind of looking sideways at people with our eyes really big and trying to hypnotize you on the spot, right? And I don't know if it's the same in the NLP community, but hypnotists, there's something about it. We just take it a step further. But when I met you, you were just very grounded in yourself. And I'm always drawn towards people like that because I know where I stand with them. It doesn't matter whether I'm in a beautiful phase of life where, despite all of the malarkey going on politically outside in the outside world, which is just the illusion, I get the joy of seeing people from all ends of the spectrum every day. I get to have conversations with people of one belief, the other belief, and it's, at the end of the day, nobody wants to see the world burn.
Right.
At the end of the day, we all want, a few basic things. We want prosperity, we want safety, we want that feeling of joy or happiness or peace, whatever you're personally chasing. But I'm always very drawn to people who are grounded in themselves because I know that the rest of the world's not going to knock you around. And that's the kind of people that I want to center myself with and I want to come to as my center. And if we're living vicariously through the story, find people that are grounded in themselves.
Let's go.
Find people that you know where you stand with them, whether you agree or whether you disagree. That's not the point. It's, do you know who they are? Do they know who they are? And those are some of the most solid friendships I have. I disagree vehemently with some people, but I know who they are.
Well, it makes me think about, like, when you said that, like, a couple people popped up from my journey that were very grounded, and we're all just where we are. So let's give a little grace out, a lot of grace out.
Oh yeah. And grounded can be from day to day.
And like I tell people, like, this journey is going to take more grace than you ever imagined. And when you heard me say that, you thought I was talking about other people. I was talking about other people and yourself. You're going to have to give yourself grace over and over and over and over and over again, because I'm going to just make a suggestion real quick. Reject what's not for you. You're going to mess this up aggressively over and over again. So fucking what?
Yeah.
Give yourself grace and keep moving. It would be weird if you just nailed it every time. Go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, what would you'd have been born perfect. Okay, great. And then what was the point of coming to Earth?
Right.
But oh my gosh, the grace thing. That is, and maybe that's the season where I'm in most recently, because the falling apart and the deconstructing of who I thought I was. I've always identified myself by my career, and then I've, launched a new product, and now it's like, oh shoot, now I'm gonna have to be a whole new Chelsey. And I've done this several times over my life, and every time the rug has been ripped out from under me, I've landed on hard surface. But you're gonna be in the air waving your arms and hands for a sec. But to give yourself grace through it, that's, I think, the beauty of this season that I'm in right now. This is, I think, the first season where I'm really actively trying to give myself grace and not trying to get out of the nothing sooner than I should.
Let's go.
It's tough, guys. And just like Greg said, it's, I think, one of the biggest challenges that we'll ever encounter is giving ourselves grace. Because you look at the people who can't give others grace, and it's because they can't give themselves grace. Everything, and it's...
I felt that.
Oh,
I had a chapter or two like that. I mean, I did not give out grace, but when you said that, like, it didn't even, like, when you said, I was like, oh yeah, I couldn't give myself any grace back then.
Yeah, we are riding each other. Like, I was riding myself so hard and beating myself up, and why am I not here? And why am I not here? And the funny thing is, I've always chosen to hang out with people who are further ahead than me or older than me. Ever since I was a little kid, I always hung out with older kids. So I've always had this feeling of being behind. And the funny thing is, I'm ahead for my generation in a lot of ways. And then there's still this feeling of having to catch up to the big kids. Even now in business, I'm with freaking A.
It never ends.
Oh, no. And I have so much respect for you in where you're at in the business. And I'm already like, okay, how can I learn from Greg?
Beautiful.
And that's, I think there's something beautiful about that. And you have just our conversations, there's a lot of similar levels that we're at. And there's also a lot of ways that you're ahead. There's some ways that I'm
Absolutely.
And that's the cool thing, is there's never anyone truly ahead or truly behind. You're always going to find anyone that is enough in your vibration to be in your circle. There's commonality there.
So you have areas that you have advanced further than I have advanced.
Yeah. And back at you. And that's the cool thing. And somewhere there's also this midpoint where you and I align totally on a lot of things. And that is, as you're going through life, finding those and not just, like I said, not just beating yourself up for not being there.
Right.
Because if you're seeing these people, there's something you have in common with them. Otherwise, they just wouldn't be in your orbit. That's, again, spiritual law. That's the way it works.
Absolutely.
So I do find that anytime that I've really been up people's rear ends, it's because I was feeling stressed. It was because I was feeling like, Chelsey, you're not enough. You're not doing this. You're not doing this right. Chelsey, oh my God, this person can't even answer a phone call. And it spirals, but it all starts, as you know, from within.
It reminds me, like, I have this little saying that I say, I kind of find it funny, but your problem, it's everyone, me, your problem requires you or you couldn't have it.
Yes.
You could not have it without you.
That's so good. So, okay, whenever, I think one of the best things I ever learned about sales was the way that my hypnosis teacher taught me how to do a consult call. And that is, what's the problem? How is it a problem for you? And then, how long, and you kind of go through the process. But the big question that you always need to ask, not only everybody else, but yourself, how is it a problem for me? Some people bite their nails. It's no problem for them. Bugs everybody else, but it's not a problem for me. Great. Don't fix the problem if it's not a problem for you. But then there are some people who have incredible problems that other people don't see as problems. Mm-hmm. I definitely, for myself to open up and be a little bit vulnerable, I very much battle with my tendency to jump fully into something. I do have that little, you can call it ADHD, you can call it my inherent Chelseyness, whatever. If I get an idea and I get excited about it, I do dive full in. I don't do this tiptoe thing of, my dad used to call, he has a phrase, I'll just mouse around with it a little bit. I don't mouse around.
Yeah.
I will get on the snowboard and I will tumble down the hill 15 million times, but I'm going to go all out. And I wrestle with that because sometimes it doesn't always pan out. It bites me. And I wrestle with it every time things kind of start, every time I have an idea that I've had to scrap, I do wrestle with that. And I do wrestle with, if I could just be another way, if I could have just tested it first, or if I could have just eased into it and then backed out when I knew it wasn't for me. But giving yourself grace, and also, I forgot why I brought that. I honestly forgot why.
Let me share. I want to share. So I'm a big advocate of what you're doing. I'm a big, like, ready, fire, aim. Like, yes. I preach this, right? And ready, fire, aim, you will have some rounds go where you didn't want them every once in a while, okay? But I'm a big advocate of, and, like, I want to share you personally and everyone, when I first, so I get out of the military. Now, I joined the military 17 from group home, so all structure, so on and so forth. Get out of the military. I have no clue what to do. I'm very socially awkward. I'm loaded with all my trauma responses, and I end up finding myself in sales. Mind you, I am socially awkward. I do not know how to communicate properly with people. I don't. But I didn't have a job, and, like, how I got into sales, I didn't have a job, and I actually went to this dealership. I was, like, Foot Mobile. I didn't have gas money. And I was, like, applying. I couldn't find a damn job. And, which, of course, it was me. Don't tell anyone.
Never.
So I went to this dealership and I was like, hey, do you need someone to wash the cars? And they're like, no, we have a porter, which I didn't even know what that meant at the time. And then I told the guy that I was talking to, I was like, what about the toilets? I'll make them cleaner than you ever seen them. And he said, I like your tenacity. You want to try sales? And I was like, what does that mean? And it literally, the guy said to me, well, first it means go put better clothes on. Swear. That's what he said to me. And he said, come back at 2 o'clock.
That's a salesman answer. That's definitely.
He said, go put better clothes on. He said, come back at 2 o'clock and talk to this guy named Colt. Okay. So I get into sales. I go to my first seminar. I start learning sales training. So I start learning how to communicate. I do 2 years in sales, and then I'm done. I'm car sales, by the way. Cut my teeth in car sales.
Man, that's a hell of a place to do it.
I did it. 2 years. And then I'm like, I get to a place where I'm like, I know how to communicate. I know how to sell. I'm not selling their stuff no more. I'm going to sell my own stuff. So I launched my first business. It's called GT Custom Cleaning. And I launched this business because I had no capital, but I could afford a vacuum cleaner, a bucket, and a mop.
And that's how, honestly, that's how most businesses start.
And we were rolling.
Yeah.
So this business grew aggressively, but I was aggressive with it. We were cleaning Anytime Fitness in Franklin. This is back in like 2014. There was a lady that had like 21 vacation rental, like Airbnbs. That everybody even really calling them that. And she was turning them by the day. We're doing churches, and eventually I end up not really selling the company, but most of the contracts I sold, and then I get into the restaurant industry, and end up in management, and then I end up in real estate, and then I end up in GP Mind Growth Academy. Now, mind you, even in GP Mind Growth Academy, I'm still evolving. Archetype intelligence is just coming out.
Yeah.
Okay, I say this to say, I want to share this with you personally and everyone listening. I am a big advocate of ready, fire, and yes, you'll have your opportunities to learn, and I think that's a good thing. When I look back, car sales taught me how to, well, if you will, Marine Corps taught me the warrior and how to stand up and speak and take up space. Car sales taught me how to close a deal.
Yeah.
GT Custom Cleaning unconsciously taught me something very powerful, and that is I was the boss. So like in real life, I mean, words sounds easy, but like for real, like the buck stopped with me. There was not a single human to pass it to.
And
like
that's
no matter if
powerful.
it cost money, no matter what the impact was. So I learned that. Now, mind you, so I brought my sales communication into the entrepreneurial world. The entrepreneurial world, I learned that it all lies on me. I go in management in the restaurant industry, which, by the way, I start just serving to make money for date nights. And they approached me and said, hey, do you want to do management? And like, oh, we talked. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Well, they saw that because like I was owning, I brought that ownership in.
Right.
Then in the restaurant industry, I tell people like, so I become a general manager. Before the restaurant industry, I'm embarrassed, but I thought a P&L was a P. I thought it was a, I thought like a P&L. Yeah, I didn't want to. I had no clue until I seen one. I did not understand what expenses were, outgoing, incoming, inventory, labor, sales, business projections. Never heard of these things before.
Yeah.
As the general manager, I told people all the time, like while I was in the restaurant industry, I would say to people like, well, hey, listen, when I leave, and then you're leaving? I said, well, not today, but I'm not going to retire here.
Yeah. Oh man, the quick tangent on the restaurant industry, because that's where I kind of got my people training. I was a server, and man, the restaurant industry is a culture of its own. It's a tribe all of its own, and there's plenty of people who know exactly that they're not going to stay. There's plenty of people that have
Lifers.
Yeah, and again, hey, if you want to be a lifer and rise up and do fine dining and really make it work for you, but there's a lot of people who have been kind of broken down by the industry, and they get off shift and they go and drink at the bar at the same restaurant, and they just put their money back in. And it's when you talked about ownership, I think that was something that I didn't do until I became a business owner. And it's something that it really is one of the most powerful personal things that you can do to grow. And I think it's something that if every employee, whether they were cleaning toilets or whether they were, the CEO, if you treat it like you own it, it's a totally different game changer. They saw that you were owning those tables.
Yeah.
Here, hello, manager. Like, it's people see that quality, and whether you know it or not, you own your job. Right. Whether or not you own your business, you are, just like you said, it's all on you, and the buck stops with you. And yes, when you're an employee, you could say, okay, let me get my manager. But really, everything, the way that you do your job, it's all on you. So you went. So you were in the restaurant industry.
Well, and I tell if everything worked out well, so I'll say it now. But I would say it then. I would tell people like the company that I was working with as a general manager, they've given me the keys to a multi-million-dollar business and said, make decisions. And if it all worked out, if I fucked it all up, you better believe I was going to toss them the keys and say I tried.
And you could.
The restaurant, now mind you, I don't know, but it all worked out. But the restaurant industry taught me how to run a business.
Yeah.
Then real estate, we go into real estate. Real estate, here's what real estate taught me. How to build a community. I don't mean like a community that I love on or something like that. But what I mean is in GT Custom Cleaning, I thought if I bring in outside people, then I'm not the star. They want me. It's GT Custom. No, I can take care of it. What do you need? Do you need it polished? We polish. Do you need it scrubbed? We scrub. Do you need it reupholstered? Yeah, we do that. And I'll figure it out. I'll get it reupholstered. And when I got in real estate, I realized I'm not your home inspector. I'm not your mortgage person. I'm not your this. I'm not your that. So I need to bring these people together.
Yeah.
This is a long drawn out. Here. Let me close it all up. What I've learned so far, and we're just where we are. But what I learned is that the car business taught me sales. My first business taught me ownership. The restaurant industry taught me how to run a business. Real estate taught me how to build a community. And now I'm doing something in GP Mind Growth Academy. Going back to like Ready, Fire, Aim, all the things we're going through, I truly, truly, truly believe that like it is imperative for us to have each one of those exposures to get to the place we're going.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as much as, again, you know, you always wrestle with it when things aren't going good. When things are going good, you're like, yeah, I'm a rebel. Yeah. But to your audience, if that is you, I'm learning that the people who knew that they always wanted to be doctors and they were performing surgery on their teddy bears and then they grew up and they became doctors, those are a rare breed and they're wonderful and we need them because they illustrate, you know, dedication and passion. But I never had one all-consuming passion. I had little passions along the way, and they've developed just like your story. It's grown and it's built and it's evolved who I am, and everything. Yep, every single thing that didn't work out, every single thing that did, taught me something. Mm-hmm. And I look back, and even in the times where I misfire or the gun's firing a blank, I don't think I'd trade this way of being for anything in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm even going to suggest, what's your thoughts? I'm even going to suggest for the people that knew they wanted to be a doctor and all straight through did doctor, we need those people in the world. And I think you those that have chose that path, you're incredible. And I'm going to suggest, if you're like, look, I can be wrong, right? But I'm going to throw this projection out there. If you're really raw with yourself, you'd probably say you wish you'd followed some more things. None of us, I don't know, I could be wrong, but like what I'm going to suggest is none of us humans are meant to be that singularly passionate.
Yeah.
I think we get programmed that we can't not know. And if we recite something enough, we will anchor it and we will believe it and we will live in that echo chamber. And some people live in that echo chamber the whole life. It's not a bad, everything is just is. But I think I've met so many people that are like, you know, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have X, Y, and Z.
I think you're right. I think that, and this is what makes people who, and maybe doctors a bad example because so many people are, you know, conditioned, oh, you should be a doctor. You know, and there's a lot of family cultural stuff around being a doctor, a lawyer, being a success in a lot of cultures and a lot of families. So maybe doctor was kind of a bad example, but I think that the people who really do have a very rare singular passion and it naturally kind of fits into a career or it naturally kind of fits, those are so rare that you probably never actually get to meet. You maybe meet one or two in your life.
Yeah, okay.
The majority of the section of even rare people have been conditioned. Don't you want to be a doctor? Don't you want to be a doctor? Are you sure you don't want to be a doctor? And you get this choice. And I think that goes back to the choice that I had to make to leave my marriage or to stay in it. Because I've seen people make the other choice and they very literally shut off that part of themselves. And I think sometimes we do it much earlier. I think, you know, little Johnny might want to be an artist, but they say, oh, well, don't you want to be a doctor? And if he's young enough and committed enough and open enough, little Johnny will shut off that artist. And he will just say, well, I'm just not a creative person. He'll find, you know, he'll get a B on one of his little art crayon drawings and go, oh, well, maybe I should just go be a doctor. And I'll start, you know, again, practicing surgery on my teddy bear. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of programming that happens that is so deep.
When you even and as a hypnotist, you're aware of this. Nocebo, placebo, nocebo.
Yes.
The idea sometimes this programming is little. And listen, I'm not saying that your parents were evil or wanted to manipulate you. What I'm saying is they were human.
Yeah, and the things that okay. I have to tell this to a lot of my parents. You're going to screw your kid up in some way. That is part of the journey of life, and no matter how well you try to do it, even the most perfect thing that you could do may not be perfect for that kid. It may not be perfect for that time. Also, you might be either going by old wisdom or you might be going by new wisdom. Something you're going to do is going to screw your kid up, because that's the agreement you have with your kid, is you both are there to learn from each other. And so let that pressure go. All parents, granted,
let's go. I
am not a parent, and maybe that's why I can see it from this perspective. Because the one thing I wish is that more parents gave themselves more compassion. I work with kids I work with the adults whose parents made loving mistakes, and they have just as much programming as the adults whose parents made angry mistakes or hateful mistakes or wounded mistakes.
Yeah.
There's still programming there, and it affects us all. You're absolutely right.
Sometimes it even sounds like let's say that the little Johnny wanted to be an artist, and sometimes it literally was an uncle that said, "Oh man, artists don't make any money."
That simple.
The nocebo was planted.
It can be so little, and even now, there's a lot of big scale. There's a lot of big scale suggestions that can be embedded. A lot of the time, especially within our own social circle, all it takes is a look. All it takes is kind of one of those sure about that? To completely change the direction of a person's mind. Now, that could be a good thing.
Right.
Sometimes it could deprogram some programming that wasn't there. And somebody goes, are you sure about a lot of my work, and I'm sure a lot of your work, is...
As you were talking about it, I was thinking, I was like, that's what we do.
Exactly. I basically question people's reality, because if they want a new reality,
they can stay where they're at, or we gotta make a new one.
Yeah, and I've got to deliberately question it, which, going back to the whole traditional therapy thing, why it didn't work for me personally and why it may not work for a lot of other people, is because the therapist has been taught to validate that person's reality and say, okay, I'm going to validate this. Now, how do we move forward? No, we got to question the old first. We got to break down the old in order to be able to build anything new. Otherwise, you're just layering on top of a foundation that you didn't want.
Yeah.
And I think the questioning's so powerful.
Yeah.
For yourself and for others.
Well, and earlier, since we did questioning, you said something earlier, and across my mind, I'm like, let's go right now. How is that a problem for you? And something I want to highlight for the listeners, there is a modal operating word in there, and it's how, said by me. How, sometimes I'll ask, and so listeners, you guys can do this yourself. Sometimes I'll ask my clients, this is a true story. One time I had a client, what's the problem? And they said, well, I don't have confidence. And I said, well, how do you know you don't have confidence? To which they said, what do you mean? And I said, I know that's a bit of a weird question, but what if you just do have confidence and you weren't aware of it? No, I don't have confidence. Oh, how do you know? Well, I get freaked out, and I get in my head every time I need to pick up the phone and make a call. Good. Making calls is the problem.
Yep. And honestly, I don't know what your style. I don't know what your style of work is, but I love to poke fun at people, and I love to poke fun at the gremlin, and that's kind of, and you saw a little bit of it last night. I can't not be funny, that's kind of a bold statement, but I love to joke around with the gremlin. I love to joke around with the thing. And the second you said that, my first thought was, well, you seem pretty confident that you have no confidence.
Yes. I call it poking the bear. I love saying,
Okay, full disclosure and just kind of shop talk. It's fun. It is really kind of fun poking at that little thing, because when I'm talking to a client, and this is the same way for you, I bet. Yes, I'm talking to the client as a human, but I'm also playing this it's like a 2-level chess game where I'm talking to the client. I'm also playing a poker game with that little unconscious belief. And when I start poking fun at, that's the thing I like to mess with. Like, my clients, absolutely. I hold space for them. They're in a place where they know that they're safe, and they know that they're safe to joke with me, and I'm safe to joke with them back. I always establish that first. But then I can start playing a poker game, and then I can start heckling that gremlin. And that's where it gets kind of fun for me, just on a healer level. And if you guys ever wonder how we think, this is how this is the sick brain of healers.
Well, like, I'm gonna suggest too. I mean, this is my, if something is in motion, my client, if the neurology is in motion, we'll just stay in motion. But if the neurology gets stuck, when I poke the bear, I go, ooh, and I'm like, cool, let's keep moving.
Yes, there it is.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a client share with me one time. They were saying whatever the problem was, and so we went through, and they said, I can't do anything. And I said, are you sure there's not one single thing you can do? And they said, no, there's nothing I can do. And I said, well, I have bad news. And they said, what? And I said, well, you have to keep the problem. I don't want to keep the problem. Yeah, but you can't do anything. Well, I can't do anything? Yeah, you said nothing, not a single thing. You're going to have to keep this problem. I'm just poking the bear. I'm getting us riled up. Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I got to tell you, a laugh is the most powerful thing that you can do to interrupt a pattern sometimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be there. I love the community of healers I'm in. I love being around healers. I love being around people who are transformative as well. You don't have to be a healer in order to be a transformational guide.
Agent, guide.
Yes, agent,
guide,
a catalyst, a boom in somebody's life. But I will say sometimes even we get stuck in the seriousness of it all. And I can't stay there for long, but whenever I've tried to stay there, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to be calm and we're going to be nice and soothing. And we're okay. Yes, absolutely. We're dealing with dark stuff. And when you deal with dark stuff, you have to bring the light. You have to let some of the nurses have some of the blackest humor I have ever met because they deal with sickness. They deal with possible death. They deal with hurt and pain and suffering. If you don't laugh through it, if you can't interrupt that pattern, and if you can't allow your clients to interrupt that pattern, my personal preference is to add a little levity in there.
Yeah.
And it shakes things up just enough. You resonate with poking the bear, and there's that kind of I'm going to do it. There's got to be a little mischief involved, I think, some way or another.
I don't know if there's a you could share with me when I so when I got certified in hypnosis, we were all I remember it's a core memory for me. We were first there was giggles in the room, and then there was us laughing at stuff that was probably didn't have to be that funny, but it was really belly funny. And I remember my my master trainer had told me, he said, when people go into trance, it doesn't have to, but people get giggly.
Yeah, some people do.
And when that's for all I know, that was an install to me. That's why I was like, hey, let me know. But when I teach Milton Model and Milton Erickson and such like that, I always tell them, I don't tell them before, I'll just take them in. And again, because it was installed, I might just be projecting it. But half hour in or so, people are giggling at the dumbest things. And I'm like, perfect, we're in trance, guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And honestly, I mean, in a lot of cases, laughter's a really good, and you know this, that's the sign that we're getting close to something, because people will start laughing when their ego's okay, throw up laughter, defenses. And laughter's a really good, I think we've learned as humans that laughter's a good way of deflecting.
Yeah.
And so I know that whenever a lot of the times, actually, I know I'm close when people start laughing.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah,
that's really good.
It's amazing. Start watching it now, and you won't unsee it when. And again, it's context. So if you're making a joke, of course they're gonna laugh.
Right.
But if you're about to, if you're in that giggly phase and you're actually not doing anything that, again, like you said, shouldn't really be all that funny, and they're starting, all right, keep digging, because you're right there from gold.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, this is fun work, isn't it?
It's
just a blast.
It is fun, and it is fun. Fun is fun, and then so rewarding too.
Yeah.
It is let's talk about it. So selfishly, I do the work, and I constantly say that. I posted the other day, a Facebook post just a couple of days ago. my greatest success in life is praying that the person that killed my brother is in heaven. And I had someone private message me and say, I'll read it.
Please. Wow.
I talked to them. I was very kind. They were very kind. I won't say their name.
Because I saw that post and I was
shocked but nonetheless, I said, if you make forgiveness about you and not them, it will come from a place of selfishness and not love. At that point, there's a misspelled word, will lose its meaning. Oh, it will lose its meaning. Yes, forgiveness is cute for you, but it's like doing a good thing for the sake of you being good and not for the sake of others. Then are you good or are you selfish? I said, I'm sure I did it for me, and that's selfish and my greatest success in life so far.
Which is poetic. It's always fun when you can be poetic and respond to the question, and it's because that's beautiful the way you phrased it. Oh,
but selfishly, like healing, going back to we can dive that.
Okay.
Pin
that
selfish,
one.
Like the journey. I am very selfish.
Yeah.
I say very selfish. I mean, I balance it at whatever level I balance it. But I tell people, like, when I'm on Facebook Live, join me if you want, but I promise I'm talking to me.
Well, okay, so the whole okay, another mini Chelsey rant coming up.
Let's go.
I can always tell because I feel squirmy when it's like,
the passion, you get excited about it.
And I think that's one of the last little things in the warrior archetype that I'm dissolving is that having to squirm first. Like I can feel like when I'm squirming, it's because I'm holding it back. And right now it's because I'm holding it back because we're on a podcast and I want to make sure that I'm not just cutting you off. But there is another undercurrent. And again, it's the undercurrent in therapy. It's the undercurrent with healers. It's the undercurrent in the spiritual world that you must be totally selfless. You must be only focused on serving others. And here's the thing. And I want to articulate this, so I'm pausing a little bit. But if you did what you do because you are purely selfless, you would burn out like that. You would burn out like a mofo. You'd be service to the first 3 people, and then you'd be exhausted. Then you'd be bitter because you're giving all of yourself away and you're getting nothing from it. If you were really fulfilled by being an accountant and you decided to go be a healer, you would be the worst healer in the world. You would screw people actively up because you would be miserable and hating your job.
Yeah.
Healers, therapists, anybody who has a profession, and I am speaking to you guys in podcast land, you had better be selfish if you're going to be a healer. You had better be doing this because it fills you in some way. You had better be doing this because you get something out of it, because otherwise you're going to burn out, you're going to hate your life, you're going to hate your clients, and I'll go on that limb. I'll go out on that limb. You'll hurt people. If you are, whether or not you're doing the right techniques, whether or not, but I don't think people last very long in a healing or a helping profession anyway. So I don't think I have to be super, I don't think this is like any big news, but it's so funny because then there's this perception that healers should be selfless. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'd like to rail against is this idea that, oh, well, you should be forgiving for them. Why?
Right.
Why should you be forgiving for them? They're not going to really, you're not talking to the person.
Yeah.
And so why does forgiveness have to be for them? It should be for you and your own peace.
And like past that, like I guess I would even almost challenge like context, right? So there can be certain situations, but like if we were to say I'm doing this for them, my curiosity is what benefit? I promise you my stepmother could give a shit less if I went through the journey of forgiveness or not.
Yeah.
Like what was I giving her?
Right. And that's exactly it. And I always think it's so interesting when people do forgive for other people. Well, and it's a very undercurrent in the spiritual community, and you have to forgive for them. They don't, just like you said, they don't care. And most of them don't even think they've done anything wrong.
Right.
And again, context. And I think it sounds as though this person just wanted to have something to say, because
and in their defense, like and I don't know them that well.
Yeah.
We're very new friends on Facebook, and I believe this person's even a different country. In their defense, when you read or see anything, you're seeing it from the context of your current emotional state. I don't know how healed or ascended she is. Something could have just happened when she's seen that triggered something from her life. Most likely this is the case.
Yeah. And I bet you anything you're right. And there's something to it. I think there's
I want to,
Yeah.
and I said by me, I did. We talked. I mean, we sent audio texts back and forth afterwards.
That's beautiful.
And I did my best to provide grace back to her. I say did my best. I mean, look, it's said by me, but I did exceptional. It's said by me.
Yeah, there you go, being selfish again.
Right.
You better not take credit. You better not give yourself grace. Don't you dare.
I had a mentor one time. I've shared this story. My listeners have heard it more than once. A mentor one time they asked me why. At the time, this is a couple years back, and I thought I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And what I realized is like back then I didn't know what I wanted, so it's like that. And so the label was I want to be a motivational speaker. Later on, I kind of realized, I have a message to share with people, whereas a motivational speaker forms a message for the crowd. I'm not forming the message. I'm bringing the fucking message. So
Yeah.
I don't want to get paid to speak. I just have to tell people that want to hear what I have to say. Or say I don't want to get paid to speak. I mean, I don't need to be on the speaker trail. You're welcome to pay me to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
You pay. I'll take it.
Well, and I think there's that's a key distinction is, are you doing it because there's something deeper? We had like a whole phase of motivational speakers. I guess what was it, back in the 80s and 90s? Like that was the really the Tony Robbins renaissance of motivation. I don't know if people need motivation anymore. We've got enough of that. I mean, we've got TikTok for, if you want somebody to tell you, okay, go out and do it, just click onto any platform. But the people that really have a message now are needed on stage. You're needed to share what, and again, this podcast is a great way to do it. And every other thing that you're doing. I listened to one of your episodes, and somebody said, I think somebody had left you a comment that you were seeking attention. Yes, yes, absolutely. And going back to the selfish thing, going back to the seeking attention, I think what really defines it is, are you being selfish in order to provide better? Are you seeking attention in order to reach the people that you need to reach? Or are you seeking attention from a wounded place? Are you saying, hey, look at me, fill my wounds? Are you being selfish by, stepping on other people to achieve your own ends, but, causing ultimate harm?
Yeah.
There's, like you said, context for everything. And I mean, I can also understand that person's point of view as well. Because we've placed this expectation that if you are spiritual, if you are evolved, if you have gotten to a certain point in your journey, you should be instant guru Zen master up on the mountain with no other
Nothing
human
phases
emotions.
you.
Exactly.
I am healing, not healed.
Exactly. It's like it. I don't know where that distinction is. I still haven't found it, but I haven't gotten to the point of enlightenment yet where I don't have concerns about what Chelsey physically needs in order to survive.
Correct.
And again, I think that also we expect the same of teachers. There are certain people, artists, teachers, healers. There's a cultural expectation that they should just be selfless and that they should not profit. They should not have higher ambitions besides just scraping out a meager living and living off of the kindness of others. I mean, why? That's one of the rules that I'd love to break is why do you have to be a starving artist? Why do you have to be a starving healer?
Yeah.
Is it any better for your customers, or would you be able to help more people if your belly was full, if your shower was clean, and if you were living the life that you wanted? You'd be able to bring people up. It's not your job. And again, there are some people, Mother Teresa, oh my goodness. She lifted people up from within that place. That's not everyone's calling, though. Some people are called to lift people into greater expansion. And you're allowed to do that. Yeah. You're allowed to selfishly enjoy it. And again, I don't get up in the morning thinking, I can't wait to hear some trauma. But I wake up going, my little selfish thing is I like playing that poker game. I'm motivated by mischief. I'm motivated by play. I'm motivated by poking the bear. And that to me fills me up because I get to go, ooh, it's right there. It's right there. There's that little root cause. Gotcha. And that's deeply satisfying for me, as well as getting that text message that said, you changed my life.
Those are so... okay, and Jessica, when I had this... I actually think we talked about it a little bit. I had this mentor ask me that said, what's in it for you? Why do you want to be a motivational speaker? And at the time in my journey, several years, I mean, over 5 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I don't know. And I said, I don't want it. I'm not doing it for the money. And he said, well, that's okay. You're allowed to do it for the money, but I didn't ask you what you're not doing it for. And I was like, this mother trucker.
Don't you love it when people give you your own medicine? You're like,
oh
yeah,
man,
touche.
Well, no, at the time wasn't he like he was? I mean, at the time I was like very early into learning NLP. I mean, I had been on my journey, but I didn't understand the depths of psychology and such that I understand now. And so he guided me through, and it was uncomfortable for me because I had no clue. When this man was asking me what's in it for you, I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say. And that's what I was thinking, but he didn't want me to say something. He wanted me to look in. Very patient. I don't know how long this went on, but we did not get up from the chair until it was done. And where I came to eventually, and he would not give me anything. I mean, he would reframe the question and that was it. And then sit there. And eventually I told him, I said, I don't know. I said, all I know how to tell you is that it like the most exciting thing for me, like I would do it every day knowing I wasn't getting paid if people just kept coming up to me telling me how awesome it was and how I changed their life.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, it's self-love and validation. That's what's in it for you.
And great.
And I now I know that's what it is. Listen, when I do an event, I want to feel validated. Yeah. I know that this is how I get my hit of dopamine at the end of this event. As long as I provide them with transformation and they validated that they were transformed, we got a party.
Exactly. And you gum up the works if you're just doing everything selflessly. If you're not keeping that circle going that you just illustrated, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. You're not going to serve, and you're just not going to be able to continue that. And I think if everybody just allowed themselves to admit what really fulfill, and again, like I said, I get my jollies from get that little like, or even speaking. Yes. Oh my God. Does it make me feel awesome when people come up to me and say what you said? Yeah. I love getting a laugh from stage. I love seeing the audience lean in. It gives me so much joy, but hey, if I said something that helped them, that's where I come from. And whenever I step into a room, whether it's healing or whether it's speaking, my job is to serve my audience.
Let's go.
My job is to serve you.
Let's go.
That is my job, but I'm also not going to sacrifice myself.
100%.
So, and that's it. It's, if you want to, you're paying me with your validation, with your effort. You are putting the effort in to come see me. You are paying me the physical money. You're paying me in the permission. And I am paying you in the value that I give. And again, it's my job to serve.
In the spiritual world, the word intent goes around a lot. Love it, but I think a lot of us don't quite. It kind of gets intent gets in my opinion what does that mean and how do I? No, just what do you want? What do you want? Because I think that if we go after anything, and truly believe that if we actually internalize that we are altruistic and that there's nothing in it for us, I believe we have opened the door to cognitive dissonance. Or the echo chamber.
Yeah.
If I give someone $10 on the street at nighttime and never tell another human being I did it for the hit of dopamine so that I could feel like a good person. If when I gave them $10 and I never told anyone, I went home and I felt taken advantage of, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah. And you said something really interesting that just sparked in my mind. There's nothing in it for me. If that becomes your story, you're eventually going to keep yourself down. You're eventually, if there's nothing, just like you said, if I start feeling taken advantage of, I'm not going to do it again. Blow that up on a bigger scale. If that becomes part of your circulating, and then there's a spiritual ego that's the funny thing is the ego's always doing this dance. Even if you think you've killed it off, it shows up and oh, but look how spiritual I am. There's nothing in it for me. Now that I'm talking it through, I don't think we can ever get out of this idea of something being in it for us.
I hope not, in theory.
Right. So you might as well allow it and embrace it instead of shadowing it and shoving it in the dark, because that's when we get nasty. That's when we get judgy. When we start getting into our ego and we don't acknowledge that we have an ego, that's when we start getting all like, oh, well, I'm spiritual and there's nothing in it for me. Look how unspiritual you are for taking money. Ha ha. And that's where the ego pops up again. And
100%. 100%.
I think it just.
I'm a firm believer in the fact that, just a very, very firm believer, like some people believe like, oh, I don't have no ego or stuff like that. And when I meet these people, I'm like, I love you. We can do nothing else together. Pride in your work is what makes you do a good job. And that comes so. Must check ego over and over and over again, no matter how many times you check it, that little beast will.
Yeah, but it's meant to be a backseat driver.
Let's go.
It's not meant to be the driver of your car, and that's.
And don't kick it out of your car. Keep it in your car. It might said by me.
Exactly. No, I'm fully in agreement. Said by Greg and Chelsey now. Because look, let's face it, the ego kept us alive.
Right.
We were installed with an ego, because if we didn't have an ego at all, we'd have jumped off of cliffs and we never would have made it past the Homo sapien evolution.
Literally.
We would not. We'd be jumping in front of things for no reason, and there has to be a little ego in order to drive us. And I think also the ego has a very important part to play with the soul, because the brain craves safety. The brain wants to know everything that's going on. It wants to know, hey, how's this going to work? It wants safety. It's designed to keep you alive. Very, very helpful, that very sweet brain. But the soul and the heart crave evolution. The soul and the heart want to test what they want to test what you can do. They want to grow. There's something in there that's like pulling you forward.
Where exactly is the limit?
Yeah, and it's also the thing.
Can I go an inch from? Yeah,
we're all really just poking the bear, aren't we? There's always a little something in us that goes, yeah, but what if? And if you listen to that and you let your ego say, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, this would fulfill me. That's your ego saying, yeah, go for it. It's giving you that little extra drive to say, I want this. I will get something out of this. Therefore, I'm going to go where my heart and soul are pulling me. Mm-hmm. There's a beautiful interplay if you actually let it happen.
Well said. This is incredible. This might be, this was a long running one. This is one of the longest run. The energy was incredible on here. If you're open, I'd definitely have you back again, because I'd love to we didn't even start talking about Tasklandia, things of that world.
I am so game.
Okay.
We could talk for hours, and that's probably the problem. Is I think,
no, I love it.
Please, yes, let's continue this conversation.
Okay.
I'm so game for a part 2, and I have to say, I so deeply respect you, and I so. We haven't known each other very long, but I do feel a very deep soul kinship with you. Same frequency, and just everything that you're doing in the world, and especially the things that you're working on now, which, I will playfully hint at. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing is so needed and so powerful in this world. And again, it fills you up. I'm so glad it does, because the rest of us get to benefit now.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's so cool. I'm so excited for this podcast and so honored.
Awesome. Okay, let me, I'm going to plant a seed on you and give you a minute. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to share a final thought, final message. And I want you to share it to the entrepreneur that is, they have desire. They already have the desire. They want it. They know what they want. And they are afraid of doing it the wrong way or messing it up. So in a moment, I'm going to ask if you can share a last message there. For our listeners, make sure you stay tuned, like, subscribe, tell your friends, follow up with us next week. We'll be back with some more great information. And before we go, Chelsey, final thoughts are on you when you're ready.
Oh, man, that was a deep one, too. That's a life study question. The first thing is, who says you're doing it wrong? You might have screwed something entirely beyond all recognition, but just because it didn't turn out the way you thought it should doesn't mean you did it wrong. Some of the biggest successes that I've had have been because I did something wrong, and because it's been because it hasn't turned out the way I planned. it wasn't supposed to. The way I planned was so much smaller. And the other thing that I'll leave you guys with that always inspires me to this day and always keeps me grounded, there was an interview with Sadhguru on Diary of a CEO. He asked, and for those of you who don't, I'm sure many of them do, but Sadhguru is a yogi, he's a guru, and he's, amazing world impactor. And he's impacted a lot of people. He's changed a lot of lives. And the interviewer, who I forget his name, but Diary of a CEO, he asked, "What's your mission?" And the guy, Sadhguru just laughed. He said, "I don't have a mission. I'm just fooling around." Imagine if you heard a really good joke. You'd want to tell everybody, wouldn't you? That's the attitude to come at it with, is you don't always have to get things right. You don't always have to have things perfect. You don't always have to have this big giant thing, this big giant mission. You don't even have to know what the mission is. But if you've heard a really good joke that helped you, if you have unlocked something that helped you, share it with the world. It doesn't matter if you're telling the joke and you get the punchline wrong. You're telling the joke, and you're going to get better and better at telling the joke. But the point is to share it with the world, not to get it done right.
Let's go. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell your friends, and check us out next week.
If this hit you deep, trust that.
Your pain has power, and your story isn't over.
Follow, share, and send this to someone who you think might benefit.
I'm Greg, and this was The Power in the Pain. Keep stepping into your power.